When children trust their environment, they're able to learn about themselves and how they relate to their world, feel safe to explore and develop self-confidence. As toddlers are developing their sense of self, they can struggle between their drive for independence and autonomy and needing to feel safe and secure. Older children become increasingly more independent, supported by their increased language, thinking, planning and organising capacities. Educators contribute to this development by planning an environment that allows children to feel safe and secure and encourages independent exploration. For toddlers, this may mean limiting the number of choices. For preschoolers, this would be giving them control over their environment and routines. Today we're at the kindergarten and we're going to be observing and talking with educators about how the physical environment supports social emotional learning, how they plan for the environment to promote competence and independent exploration. We'll also be looking at how they plan and the physical environment actually supports and promotes empathy and respect among children.
I'm Margaret Hammersley, the owner and the director, the nominated supervisor, educator and leader. The kindergarten was built in 2005, opened in January 2005. It is a 39-place centre with 2 playrooms and we enrol children from 2 to 5.
My name's Kylie Warwick and I'm the room leader in the kindy room with the 2 to 3 year olds.
Margaret and Kylie, can you tell me a little bit about how does your environment promote social emotional learning and independence?
Our environment is a very natural environment, or as natural as we possibly can be within the constraints of the early childhood sector. We've worked very hard to maintain it in that sense, and we've worked in the last 8 years to build on that premise. We also have a philosophy that is based on respect and competency of the children. Our image of the child is one that is rich and capable. So we believe that our environment enhances that belief for us. The open-ended nature of the environment, the ability for the children to make choices on what they would like to do and see on any one day, and we encourage a collaborative relationship between them.
We have lots of very small grouped activities or experiences because I like to work in small groups. In the mornings and the afternoons, the children all come together as one, both rooms, so they're family grouped. And so they use that time for the older children to look after the younger children. For example, they might give them a push on the swing or help them do some cooking in the sandpit. It just provides a bit more independence.
So your environment, I noticed this morning when we were filming, we had children inside and outside. Can you tell me a little bit about your philosophy around children's choices?
Yep, we give them the freedom of choice because not all the children want to play inside or outside, and it lets them explore the different areas. And some children learn better outside under the tree doing a painting than they would inside.
We allow children to make the choice, but there is a subtle intentionality about it all. And if we see a particular interest arising, we will subtly guide our children towards that interest or around that interest and build on that.
Tell me about what some of the experience that you do that encourage children to understand their own feelings and develop empathy towards others.
They love Home Corner because they're caring for the babies, and quite often they'll take on the role of being mum or the baby themselves, and they show that care and empathy towards each other in their role play.
We have quite a number of pets in the centre, and we have 2 lizards that the children are very close to, and unfortunately our bigger lizard is missing at the moment. He has escaped from his cage, so that was a very good experience for the children to empathise with how Lizzie might be feeling. Is she lost, or is she cold? How is she eating? So all the questions and the theorising that came out from that episode happening.
Tell me a little bit about how do all of the children relate to Lizzie?
Not
or
all
the
of
lizards?
no,
Or the staff?
no. Kylie does not like lizards and will go into the next room when she knows Lizzie's out of her cage. And the children respect that. They all comment on the fact that Kylie and Amanda don't like lizards, and if that we have to tell them when we're taking our lizards out of their cages. So it's interesting because that again is showing the empathy that children have for that experience.
You don't have a large outdoor area. No. So what are some of the other things that you've actually done to incorporate and use the space available?
Our yard is sloping, so it does present its own difficulties, particularly when we have a lot of rain. So, and our grass wears very quickly, and I'm determined to keep natural grass, so at times we have to block it off. Early in the piece when we first opened, we ventured out. We thought, well, we can't stay here because we've blocked off our area, so we looked at and brainstormed for possibilities. We have an area across the road that is a park, and we have taken that on as our second play space. We call it our wild space. And the children just love going over there. We've done it as a routine excursion. We've risk assessed it, and we have invisible fences. And we wait till the children are trustworthy, not only we trusting them, but us trusting them, trusting us before we venture out. So in the last month we've started the journey out to our wild space. The other thing we do is we do a lot of neighbourhood walks, and these are opportunities for children to express feelings, because we've found dead birds on our walk, we've found litter on our walk, and the children voice their opinions and their theories when they see these things happening. We have an area, and in our 2 recent floods, our verandas have been absolutely indispensable in what we've been doing, because everything was so wet and the rain so consistent that we've had to remodel our whole day for extended periods for something like 3 weeks it was in February.
Tell me some of the things that you actually did in reorganising and rethinking about your day. What was the planning that went behind that?
Well, we sat down and we talked to the children about the fact that our grass and our playground was very muddy, and the sand pit was like quicksand. You stood in the sand and your feet went straight down, because being on a slope the water comes straight into the sand pit. So they're all things that we have to take into consideration when we have a lot of rain, and we do on the mid-north coast. So we talked about it, and we have a culture here where we read the Cat in the Hat. Whenever we have more than a week's rain, it's time to read the Cat in the Hat. And we talk about what would happen if the Cat in the Hat visited us and how we could overcome his mischievousness. It's amazing when you actually put the emphasis back onto the children and get them to be thinking.
And how does the physical environment support some of those spontaneous moments that arise when providing experiences for children that go somewhere completely different to where you might have thought they started out at the beginning of the day?
It's so open planned, and there's nothing is set, it has to be in that place, so we can move things around the room and different places and get things out of the cupboard and add them in. And
so you mentioned before that children actually know where things are, so they contribute to that planning.
Yeah. On Monday, one of the children actually asked that we've got some toy dogs in the cupboard, and they actually asked for the dogs to come out so we could build a kennel.
We talked earlier, Margaret, about the group of children you're working with into building and making and producing things. So tell me a little bit about how the environment supports them to do that.
I found that the group of children this year that have moved into the preschool room are constructors. They have to build. Everything that we put out, they have to look for this end point, and we haven't had a group of children like this before. We've had the odd one within a larger group, but the core group of children that we have across the week this year want to make things. And it's fascinated us, so I've created a construction diary, and it's got all the different areas where anything can be constructed in our day. It can be from with clay through to blocks, through to collage, anything that you think can create something, that's what I've put in this diary. And it's amazing to see how the children are using the space and the collaboration and the expression of ideas and the shared knowledge as they sit and work with the materials that are on offer. And they will ask you for certain things if they've got an idea. For instance, the boat that's hanging from the ceiling took 4 weeks to make, and we weren't allowed to take it apart. It had to stay there, and it was taking up nearly half the room at the time. But
had signs all over it, do not touch.
But out of respect, because this part of these expression with the children and the thinking with the children is to learn respect, and it's a very hard emotion and thought to get across to young children, is to respect, particularly during our meeting times when we've got our agenda and they're talking to each other and over each other, and we talk about respect for listening to each other.
Tell me about your meeting time and your agenda, because I'm sure that there will be a few people immediately thought that was staff that you're actually talking about.
Yes. I've waited till probably the last 2 weeks to actually bring the concept in. I could tell that the children were ready to move on to a more formal way of talking in our morning meeting. And we're ready to start talking about news, and they've settled into the understanding how our day starts. And so we've used the word agenda, and they've worked out that that's a list of what we need to do while we're sitting and talking. And we tick it off, and yesterday I was reminded as we moved on to our agenda that I'd forgotten to tick one off. And we've made a decision, a collaborative decision, that there'll be 5 items on our agenda. No more than 5, because they realise that they're missing out on playtime if we go too long.
I've also noticed that outside and inside there's lots of spaces and confined areas for children. Tell me a little bit about why you felt that was important in setting up your environment.
The children, they like to huddle together and hide under things and discover what's down there. A special place that they've found at the moment that they like to be in is in amongst our reels. There's a spot they can sit in, and they were down there this morning hunting for rabbits. And one of the children actually came through underneath the reel, and they weren't expecting that, so they actually caught a rabbit.
Never a dull moment, is there?
No, never a dull moment. And one of our favourite games is hide and seek. And because we have a landing and the children can get under the landing, which is fine because it's all sprayed for spiders and everything else. But it's just adults can't get under there, but we can see them and we can reach and get them out if anything happens. But it's just enough space for them to sit in there and believe that they're completely concealed and hidden. And that's a very, very much a favourite spot.
And why is that important for children to have that space?
I think it's important that they own it. That's something that I've got control over, and that's my power. And I think that helps to build that self-esteem and that confidence. And okay, I'm in a big area, but this is my little area.
They know it's theirs and that we can't come in.
Tell me a little bit about none of this just happens. So tell me, what actually do you do as educators? How do you find time for reflective practice? What sort of professional development do you have for your staff?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're all really important ones. I'm a great advocate for adults as learners as well as children, and part of this philosophy that we adhere to here is very much on, it's a whole learning community. We're researchers with the children, and it very much underpins what we're doing. So this year we've all got reflection diaries, personal reflection diaries that we write in each day. We are very much into professional development, and I find I like to bring professional development into the centre rather than go out. Sometimes we do, depending on what it is, but being in rural Australia, you normally have to travel quite a distance or stay overnight, so it gets very costly. So I found it a more cost-effective way for us is to network with our immediate early childhood services and find out which things are common between us and cost save that way.
Thank you, Margaret and Kylie, for having us share your morning here. It's been really inspirational, I think, and I'm sure there'll be lots of interest when we use this. It's really good to see the National Quality Standards and the Early Years Learning Framework in practice and hearing from educators. So thank you very much for having us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.